Well, the Hornets absolutely exploded on Wednesday against the Indiana Pacers, going off for 158 points, a franchise record in regulation. Here to talk about it, Locked On Hornets host Walker Mehl. Walker, I mean, what did you make of that second half and the game overall for the Charlotte Hornets?
It's a good game plan to start hitting shots, which is a little bit different than what they did against Atlanta 2 games ago and what they did against Toronto just the previous game. It was really nice to see LaMelo Ball start to get going. How about 11 of 16 from the field for him, hitting 3 of the 4 3-pointers that he took. He's also being a lot more aggressive. He got to the foul line 5 times, shooting a really good percentage there as well, close to 90 this season. And he recorded a triple-double. It's the 5th career triple-double for LaMelo, and he became the 2nd youngest player to ever reach that mark at 20 years and 150 days, something like that. It was really impressive to see what he was able to do as a leader. And then Kelly Oubre come in off of the bench, score 39 points. It's about as well as you could possibly play, right? In fact, there's only been a handful of teams, not even, that have put that kind of mark up in regulation since 1990. So really one of the lifetime performances we're always going to remember, because they don't do that. In fact, they never did before last night.
Yeah, so many records broken, so enjoyable to watch, especially that second half, especially because we were wondering, are they going to be able to shake this Pacers team and actually win this game, which they really needed to do. But what do you think that game in a vacuum can kind of do for the Hornets going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think what it can do is what you see hitting these shots from deep. I think it's going to start to get Terry Rozier back on track after he kind of struggled shooting from beyond the arc the previous 2 games. I also think what you're going to see is a Kelly Oubre that comes out hot again. This is just kind of what he's done all year. Got off to a slow start offensively, but once he starts to get into a groove, then you really see the consistency from him, and it gets your confidence back. A lot of this, Nick, I think is just, the fact that it is a make or miss league. And James Borrego said it after the game. They were due for this type of performance. And so they know now, hey, even if things go a little bit wrong for us in a couple of different contests in a row, we can always turn it on. We can always come back and maybe even perform better than what anybody thought. And I think that kind of confidence that is instilled within this team already, to see it convey, to see it play out in real time, I think that's going to do wonders for this team as they fight for a postseason spot.
You alluded to it, LaMelo Ball, the 4th player in NBA history with 5 triple-doubles before the age of 21. He joins Luka, Magic Johnson, and LeBron James. And now Hornets fans see one of their own right in that company. Can you put it in, the jersey sales are rising. He's pushing for an all-star spot, and that seems promising. Can you put it into perspective, not what he might be able to do, but what he's doing right now?
I think this is what Charlotte has been waiting for so long. We had Kemba Walker. He's the best Charlotte Hornet in organization history, at least at this point, but he didn't have that superstar persona. This is somebody now that what you can see with LaMelo is somebody that can be 15th in jersey sales just midway through a second season in the league. The fact that ESPN wants to show the Charlotte Hornets like they're going to tomorrow night, when it was originally scheduled for just regional TV broadcast. Now ESPN, with the help of the Lakers franchise, of course, but they want to air LeBron James going at it against a LaMelo Ball. And this is what a young team trying to build needs first and foremost. And when they got that 3rd overall pick with LaMelo, and the fact that he got Rookie of the Year, that you saw something special, it can bring this team to new heights that we just haven't seen before. And so the fact we've been waiting this long, the fact that all Hornets fans are rewarded with somebody like LaMelo, it's special to see it play out.
All right, let's talk about this Lakers game. As you mentioned, flex to ESPN, so another primetime, nationally televised slot for LaMelo and the Hornets. Last time out on the West Coast, the Hornets made a game of this late. They lost it in overtime. Anthony Davis had a monster game. He's back. We obviously know that the Lakers have not performed against their expectations. What do you make of this Lakers team coming in?
The Lakers, they've been struggling a lot this year. We know that one former Hornet in Malik Monk has actually been one of the bright spots outside of LeBron James. Anthony Davis is somebody that has not played up to expectations. You look at a Russell Westbrook, man, there's been a lot of criticism surrounding him. So really, it's LeBron James, it's Malik Monk that have gotten that offense going. But Nick, we've seen the Hornets break a lot of bad streaks this year. We've seen them end the 16-game losing streak against Philly that had come into, or they lost a couple of heartbreakers even earlier this year. They broke that this last time out they played them. They beat the Celtics in Boston for the first time in 6 years. What we've seen from this team is kind of exercise the demons and get rid of those things that had been so prevalent with this franchise's history. Now, can they beat LeBron? They don't do that. This is not a team that has had any kind of success against LeBron whatsoever. And so maybe this is just another thing they can do, a streak busting team like the Charlotte Hornets. Maybe you can add this to that list when it's all said and done.
Okay, if they beat LeBron and the Lakers, as much as we know they've struggled, what does that do for the Hornets? What does that do for your view of this team going forward?
Yeah, it's really tough to try to figure out whether this team needs to make a trade by the deadline or not, on if they need to win a postseason series with an outside move, because I think they've shown, I can feel, I don't know about confident, but they certainly have the ability to get a top 6 seed with the roster that they have right now. Just, I think, a game and a half out against Philadelphia, who's a little bit ahead of them. But when you talk about beating a Lakers team, it will give this team even that much more confidence, because they are able to beat what is considered maybe the greatest player of all time, maybe even outside of Charlotte's owner in Michael Jordan. But you just start to check off these boxes that we haven't seen in a while from this team. And I think that's the most important thing. So when we talk about what is the level, what is the height of this team, what is the ceiling they can reach, I think that's absolutely compete in a first round series. And if they do make a move at the trade deadline, I don't know what that would be, but if they make a move, it means they think they might even be able to win a first round series. And I think, the fact that they have such a young roster, to see this team continue to grow and develop has been great to see. And a win against the Lakers would only add to that.
When they go on these runs and they exercise those demons, as you put it, against some of these big time teams, I think, I get caught up in, we get caught up in, fans get caught up in, and probably the guys on the floor get caught up in, like, okay, this is where we are as a team.
Right.
But we know that general manager Mitch Kupchak has his own kind of viewpoint of where the team is at any given time. I mean, we haven't really heard from Mitch in a while, so it's tough to gauge like how he views it. But the trade deadline is only a few weeks away. So how do you think he's balancing that in his mind as he looks towards, what can we get? What do we give up? And do we want to do this right now?
I think Mitch Kupchak has done a phenomenal job living in present moment, actually, kind of living in reality and talking himself down off of making a franchise altering trade. And we've seen this exercise a few times in the last few years. Mitch Kupchak came to this team as a deal maker. He was a general manager with the LA Lakers, and that's a very different city. It's a very different example of how you build a championship winning team. They had Kobe Bryant. They have the second biggest city in the United States. They have Shaquille O'Neal. All you have to make trades built around 2 of the best players that we saw that decade and a generation, and you can start to add rings to those guys. Here, you got to build from the ground up, and that means not getting rid of assets, and you have to try to figure out when you can start to make deals and give up something, sacrifice something to come out in the long run on the better end. He's refrained from trading some of the younger talented pieces. He's refrained from doing that so far. Now the question is, can Mitch Kupchak, does he see a team that truly can compete in the postseason, which he says is the ultimate end goal? It's not just to get to the playoffs. It's to actually compete with whatever team they're paired against in the first round. So does he see this roster fit enough to do that, or is he going to make a trade? And if he does make a trade, that means he thinks they need a little extra help in order to reach this, what is a playoff mandated goal, as we heard from the Hornets during team media day.
All right, last question. The All-Star game is in a few weeks. Will we see LaMelo Ball and or Miles Bridges?
I feel very confident you're going to see LaMelo there. He's 5th in the voting right now when it comes to the backcourt players in the Eastern Conference. I don't think Miles is going to get it. He got to the top 10 in the Eastern Conference frontcourt players. So it's going to be dicey. You have 50% of the fan votes making this up, and then you have the players, and then some of the coaches, execs try to figure out who should be, and the writers, have 25% as well. And so you have a few different players trying to figure out who should be on both of these rosters. Miles Bridges is going to be tough. If he gets in, it's going to be on the back end. I think LaMelo is going to get in pretty easily.
Yeah, and just kind of building off of that, what does that mean to this organization and to this fan base to see LaMelo Ball get to that all-star level in year 2?
I mean, it just confirms possible once you saw some of the flashes at the beginning of his rookie year. So he wins the award. You start to see him make some flashy plays. He affects winning, the advanced stats, like what LaMelo was doing, not only just the counting stats. And then you start to get a little worried, right? Because the sophomore slump, you hear it a lot in the NFL with quarterbacks when they kind of go down a little bit in their production. You worry about that sometimes with players. I think Jason Tatum might be somebody that did not have the greatest second year, but boom, he comes in and is still fantastic. LaMelo didn't have that. He didn't have any kind of regression. All he did was take a step towards helping the Charlotte Hornets team win more basketball games at the midway point than they have in, like 5 years when they got to the postseason. Even more than that, they had a better record. So it's just confirmation. It's nice to see the result right in front of your face rather than, oh, what could be, what could be. This is very real. This is right in front of us, and we're seeing it play out. And that's a phenomenal thing. It goes back to what we talked about with LaMelo. It's what they needed first and foremost. And for him to get an all-star vote, to get an all-star nod because of the votes, it shows that the national audience also can see what it has here in the Queen City is pretty special.
All right, Walker Mehl, you can hear him on Locked On Hornets every single day. You guys drop those. I mean, now is the time. If you haven't already, to listen right now, because this team is going places. And sometimes they have me on too. You don't have to listen to those, but Walker, we appreciate it as always.
Hey, you should listen to those too. Don't sell yourself short. So yeah, come join Nick Carboni on with us on the Locked On Hornets podcast as well. And you can follow us at Locked On Hornets. Nick, thanks so much for having me on, man. Always appreciate it.